Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Stories from the Field. Boy, I have really enjoyed each week being able to talk to some of our mission partners with the International Mission Board and hearing how God is at work through them around the world, but also having the opportunity to hear about the importance of the Lottie Moon Christmas Offering. I am so excited that tonight our special guest is Dr. Paul Chitwood, the president of the International Mission Board. So Dr. Chitwood, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us this afternoon. We really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Pastor Chip. It's a privilege to be on with you and so grateful for your leadership at First Baptist Church and so grateful for the church and their generosity to partner with us to get the gospel of the nations.
Well, listen, we're just excited to be able to be a part of how God's at work around the world. So thank you very much for that. Listen, I want to start with you. You know, people may read about you in the paper or online or whatever, but you're just a regular guy like all the rest of us. And so just kind of wanted to help folks get to know you a little bit. So will you tell us a little bit of your story, where you grew up and how you came to know Christ?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's not a unique story for many people, but sort of unique, I guess, for a person to be in the role I'm in. But actually, I was raised by a single father for many years. Our mother left when I was 2. I had a younger brother who was 1, an older brother who was 4. Dad was raising us on his own in a little coal mining town in the mountains along the Tennessee-Kentucky border. And I guess when I was about 4 or 5 years old myself, there was a knock on our door one evening. And it was a couple of deacons from a little Baptist church in town, and they were just out knocking on doors, inviting people to come to church. And they stopped by our house at 210 Providence Street, little rental house that we were living in, and invited Dad to come to church and bring his boys with him. Pastor, I'm not sure what they were thinking. We didn't have much to offer the church, trouble, and we brought it. We found a church family there that loved us and really took us in and helped our family heal. And it was a few years later when there was another knock at our door. One evening, Dad had invited our pastor to come over. My older brother had been asking questions about the gospel, and Brother Alan Herod came by and sat down in our living room, and Dad brought a chair out of the kitchen and put it in front of where Brother Herod was sitting, and my older brother sat there. My younger brother and I sat on the floor and listened in. I was about 8 years old, maybe, and as a pastor shared the gospel with my older brother and my younger brother and I listened in. Pastor Herod got 3 for 1 that night as we all gave our lives to Christ and were baptized together just a few weeks later in the baptistry of the First Baptist Church, Jellicoe, Tennessee. I was raised in that church, called to ministry in that church, and then my wife and I married at age 23. In fact, it's been 27 years ago this week that just a few months into our marriage, I began ministry as a pastor in a little seminary church, in Owen County, Kentucky.
Yeah, my goodness, what a great story. And to think, a deacon knocking on your door, having no idea how God was going to use that encounter and what that was going to just begin as far as, here you are as president of International Mission Board. There's no way in the world those deacons would have had any idea what God was going to do in the future when they were faithful to knock on that door.
Yeah, no way they could have. But thank God for a church that cared about the neighbors and for a couple of deacons that loved the Lord and wanted to see their neighbors know the Lord and came by and stopped at our house. I wouldn't be on this call today with you if it wasn't for them. And so the Lord in kindness puts those people in our lives and those who are obedient and faithful to share with others. And I'm a product of that, just like we all are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me ask you this question, because I'm sure as a 16-year-old boy, you weren't thinking, one day I think I want to be president of International Mission Board. So kind of walk us through, because you talked about your call to ministry, so you served as a pastor. So how did God work in your life to bring you to where you are now?
Yeah, well, interesting. I was pastoring when I was a seminary student. Ended up pastoring 18 years and had always felt that that was God's call on my life. I knew it was. I was called to be a pastor. I was teaching at the seminary. I finished my MDiv and did a PhD there and was teaching seminary on the side while I was pastoring, and yet I was very involved in our cooperative mission work. I was pastoring in Kentucky, so I was very involved in what Kentucky Baptists were doing together. Very involved in what Southern Baptists were doing together. I had the opportunity in 2002 to become a trustee at the International Mission Board. Mm-hmm. The Lord used that experience to open my eyes to the world and what He was doing around the world through the cooperative efforts of Southern Baptists, and really deepened my involvement in our state convention work. And so in, I guess it was 2011, I was invited to become the executive director of the Kentucky Baptist Convention. So I transitioned after 18 years as a pastor to serving the 2,400 churches of the KBC. Then at that point, I'd wrapped up 8 years as a trustee on the International Mission Board and chaired the board a couple years. But we had a very strong relationship, a lot of involvement with the IMB and partnerships with the state convention. And even before that, partnerships with our local church, just like your church partners with the IMB. And so it was in June of 2018, when the IMB was looking for a new president, that I got a request to interview for that position. Somebody had submitted my name, and my wife and I certainly didn't think that we'd be the ones that the Lord would call upon in that role. But as it turned out, in November, just 2 years ago now, of 2018, I was voted on November 15th to become IMB president. And so the Lord really used years of experience in pastoral ministry and preaching and teaching about God's work among the nations, and then the involvement in the denomination, my educational background. Lord brought a lot of that together, really, and work in state convention life to bring me into the role I am in now. And what a privilege it is to serve our missionaries and to serve Southern Baptists in this role.
You know, one of the things that we've been able to see as we've heard the stories from the missionaries that we've had the opportunity to talk to is, you know, you can look back and you can see in some ways, I guess, kind of breadcrumbs of how God worked in their lives in certain places to prepare them for the assignment that they're in. And so when you think about, in your case, not only serving as a pastor, so you know that side of things, but also serving as a state convention leader, and you know that side of things, but then serving on the International Mission Board and then being chairman of the board, and you know, you can see how God really prepared you for the assignment that you're in now.
Well, absolutely. Looking back on it, I couldn't see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always easier looking back.
Always easier looking back, but I look back on it and see how the Lord was preparing me, and yet I felt so unprepared when I came into the role.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's exactly right.
A large organization with a large reach. We have so many churches we have the privilege of working with, but we've got a great team. It's not up to me. As you know, we've got a great team of missionaries, some 3,600 around the world, and they're 2,880 kids. So most of those missionaries go out as families, as you know, and you've probably been able to meet some of those families. And then a team of support staff here that serves alongside of me, and a lot of them have many years, decades of experience overseas, and have now come to help me lead and make sure. While I've done a lot of volunteer mission work overseas, I've never lived overseas, and so that perspective that those retired missionaries or long tenured missionaries bring when they have come to the leadership team here in Richmond, Virginia, where we're headquartered, has been so incredibly helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you've had a chance to meet Robert Fortenberry. We have 2 retired IMB people who work on staff with us, and boy, just the perspective that they bring is a unique perspective and a great maturity in seeing God at work in the world. So that's fantastic. You mentioned family. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, well, we've been blessed with 4 kids. Our son, Daniel, is 24. He graduated college last May. They didn't have graduation because of COVID, but he wrapped up last May. That was the important part. And took his first job. He and his wife are in South Florida. He works on a private hunting ranch in Okeechobee, Florida. And then we have a daughter who she also graduated last May. No graduation ceremony, but she got out and got off my payroll. So that was, was a big day. She's now serving as a nurse in Louisville, Kentucky, where we lived in the Louisville area for many years. And then we have two adopted daughters. We have daughter Kai, who's a freshman in high school. We adopted her when she was just a baby. And we have adopted daughter Lily. We were foster parents through our state children's home, our Baptist children's home, for many years, and we ended up adopting just as we were moving from Kentucky to Richmond 2 years ago. Ended up adopting a little foster daughter we had, and Lily's now in the third grade, and she's a blessing. Although I told her that the instructions are on her way to college, she can drop me off at the nursing home.
That's funny. That's great. Well, listen, tell us a little bit about the International Mission Board. When we think about IMB, first thing we think of is missionaries, but I know there's a lot more to IMB than just missionaries, so that's a huge part of it. So tell us a little bit about the International Mission Board.
Yeah, well, it really is. It's a special year at the International Mission Board. It's our 175th anniversary. And one of the things that I love to share with churches like your church and Southern Baptists who've supported over the years is that for 175 years, Southern Baptists have had a witness among the nations. And especially during this pandemic year, one of the things I like to point out, there's an adjective I throw in there, and it's the word uninterrupted. For 175 years, Southern Baptists, uninterrupted, have had a witness among the nations through global pandemics, through world wars, a civil war. There's a lot of things that have happened, elections after election, a lot of things that have happened in the world. And yet Southern Baptists have continued to send and support their missionaries without interruption for 175 years. So I share about 3,600 serving around the world right now. We have about 300 support staff here in the United States. What do those 300 do? Well, they're accountants and they're logistical coordinators. We have doctors and nurses who serve our missionaries as they're preparing to go out or when they come back and are working their way back stateside. Just give health checks to them, make sure they have the kind of care that they're needing. We have connection strategists, mobilization strategists who work with students who are in college or seminary who are thinking about what God would do with their life on the mission field. And so we help them get in that application process. We have those who help assess the missionary candidates to make sure that we're sending out the kind of missionaries that Southern Baptists would want to support and could feel good about supporting. We have training specialists who help train our missionaries in the missionary task and help prepare them for the culture shock and the spiritual warfare that they'll be facing every day when they leave their home here in the States and go make their home among the nations. And so lots of different roles and lots of strong supporters who help us stay connected to their churches and also help us support well the missionaries who are overseas. We're the largest sending Christian missionary agency of our kind in the history of Christianity. Wow. And so how does that happen? Well, the way that happens is churches like First Baptist and 47,000 others, the churches of the Southern Baptist Convention, have chosen to work together to get behind this effort as a part of their Great Commission stewardship. And we're grateful for each one that supports, and that has allowed the IMB to have the reach that it has.
Wow, that's incredible. You know, and I know you've been in your role now for, I guess, 2 years, and so you've had the chance to kind of settle in a little bit, though I don't know that we ever get fully settled in, but you settle in a little bit and you learn a lot of things that you know there's no way to know until you're sitting in the chair. But as you look over the landscape of the International Mission Board and the mission of making disciples around the world, you know, what do you see as kind of where the IMB is going and some of the things that you want to see the IMB focus on in the years ahead?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we think about that question every day. I think about that question every day. And first and foremost, we want to be in tune with the Spirit. We want to be walking with the Lord. We want to be following His leadership. And so that rises above everything else. The next thing that's been very important for us, and really it's going to continue to be important moving forward, is that we get reconnected with Southern Baptists. There's only about half of our churches that give through the Lottie Moon Christmas Offering. And you know, someone said, well, can you be a Southern Baptist and not give through the Lottie Moon Offering?
That's a good question.
But we want to change that. And so, but part of that is just our need to be better connected. And so we've got a plan to mobilize our missionaries to get each one of our personnel, our missionaries, and our stateside staff connected to one of the 47,000 churches across SBC. So we're attacking this thing in total. Everybody is going to have a portfolio of about 20, 25 churches. And when we do that, there's enough of us at the IMB to make a connection to every single church in the Southern Baptist Convention. So that's big for us. The other thing that's big for us is just getting to the edge of lostness around the world. The Lord has left us all here for a reason. I believe heaven's going to be better than earth. I know you believe that, Pastor. You preach that all the time. But so why did the Lord leave us here? We left us here because there are still many out there who need to hear. And the vision of heaven that we find painted for us in Revelation 7:9 is a great multitude from every nation, from all tribes and all peoples and all languages who are standing before the throne. And the only way you get to stand before the throne is if you've heard and believed the gospel. The one who has the Son has life, John wrote. The one who does not have the Son does not have life. And so we've been left here, all of us who are believers have been left here to ensure that the gospel gets to every nation, to all the tribes and all the peoples and the languages of the world. And so getting out to those places we've never been, getting out to those people who have never heard is a huge priority for us. We've got some goals. We want to add to our missionary force. Over the next 5 years, we got a goal of adding 500 more missionaries to our mission force. And we believe that's doable if we connect ourselves better with Southern Baptists and let them know what God's doing through their mission work around the world. We also want to be more strategic in reaching the cities. Over half the world's population now lives in urban centers. By the end of this century, we're told that 80% of the world's population will live in the urban centers. And so if we want to reach the lost, we have to have a strategy to reach the urban centers. And we're developing a strategy for 75 of these large multi-million in population cities around the world. Another one of our goals is to add 500 global partner missionaries. And so just very quickly, over 175 years of Southern Baptist work around the world, there have been planted and started 140 Baptist conventions and Baptist unions around the world. So Southern Baptists sent their missionaries, they've shared the gospel, people have been saved, churches have been planted, those churches have come together to form their own conventions and unions, and they're ready to send missionaries. And so we want to help them do that and add some of those missionaries to our IMB teams. And the other targets for us over these 5 years really go back into funding. We want to see that Lottie Moon Christmas Offering grow. Every penny of that is used overseas. None of it supports me or our support staff here. It's all used for our work overseas. And so getting the growth in that is a priority for us.
You know, I can't imagine what your job is like. I mean, I know as a pastor of a church, you feel overwhelmed all the time. In your role, you're overseeing essentially people who are all over the world, and the strategy is a worldwide strategy. Though in the local church, our strategy is a worldwide strategy as well. Yes. But you're working generally with the people who are here to send them worldwide. In your case, you're working with people who are worldwide to talk about a strategy and to help people understand a strategy. So just curiosity question. I mean, tomorrow morning when you wake up and, these huge goals and this huge vision and this huge task, I mean, on a daily basis, how do you attack that? It's kind of like how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I mean, how does that work?
I attack it with the knowledge, if I'm starting my day in the morning, that when I lay my head on the pillow at night, there'll be 1,000 more things I could have done that I didn't get to.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we've got to, okay, what's the most important for today? What give strategy and where God's leading us, got to prioritize things. Mm-hmm. I move through every day with a dependence upon the Lord. If the Lord doesn't do it, it won't get done.
Right.
We just want to cooperate with Him, and also move through the day with a phrase I heard somebody use years ago. You've heard it too. Teamwork makes the dream work. And That's so right. the vision of heaven being fulfilled won't happen because of what I do. Yeah. It's going to happen because of what our entire team and our missionaries and 47,000 churches and 14 million Southern Baptists do together. And so keeping everybody together, pulling everybody together, getting everybody moving in the same direction. So that's huge. And then I think the last thing that I'd say is just I start every day with an awareness that there is an enemy, and there's probably no organization that he's more put out with than Southern Baptist International Mission Board.
Sure.
Because all over the world, your IMB missionaries are standing at the very gates of hell, banging on those gates, demanding that those for whom Christ has died be set free. And the enemy doesn't like that one bit. And we sense it, we feel it, we experience it every day. But greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. And the Lord gives victory.
As you talk about the enemy, let me touch on that for a second. What are some of the challenges that you face in your role, or even what are some of the challenges that we face as Southern Baptists as it comes to sharing the gospel around the world? What are some of the things that you see?
Yeah, access is huge. The enemy has put up every barrier he can. Satan stands against us, and he uses governments and rulers and leaders and laws, and so access. There are many places that do not welcome a missionary, and yet knowing that there are millions of lost people in those places, we know that we can't just give up and turn away. We've got to find a way to get to them. And so creative access is what we call that, finding creative access.
That's right, it's a good word.
Is a big deal for us. And then just ensuring that we're doing everything we can to train and to equip those who are going out, whether it's a volunteer mission team coming out from First Baptist Church, or whether it's our missionary who's living full-time overseas around the world, the enemy wanting at them. We know that the armor of God is our protection. And we put on that armor with a conscious, intentional effort that we make, but also it ultimately comes from walking closely with the Lord and trusting him to protect us. And we also realize that sometimes it's the Lord's will. He permits people to pay a terrible price. We've had many missionaries who have lost their lives in service, and yet they went into service knowing that their hope was not in this life. Their hope was in heaven, and they were willing to do whatever God wanted them to do, pay whatever price that he'd have them pay. That kind of courage inspires me to work harder, to do better, to support them, and to rally Southern Baptist support around them.
Sure, absolutely. When we talk about challenges, tell us some of the things that you're really excited about, things that you see and maybe you're just super excited about right now.
Yeah, so really excited about the momentum that I feel that we're getting in reconnecting with the churches and the way churches have responded. We had our second highest Lottie Moon Christmas Offering in the history of the IMB this past year in the midst of a global pandemic. Over year, our fiscal year ended the end of September. And so when I say last year, I'm just talking about 6 weeks ago.
Right.
But over the course of that past year, to see the way Southern Baptist stepped up to support their missionaries and support the mission, I mean, it's been humbling. It's been such a blessing. And so we're thankful for that. And it's causing us to push harder again to reconnect with more and more Southern Baptists. Also, we've seen our missionary candidate pipeline, we call it, grow again. When I came into my role, as far as people applying to be long-term missionaries, we had like 82 people in the candidate pipeline, and then another couple of hundred in what we call the midterm pipeline. And so you think, well, that's quite a few people. Well, it takes 300 new missionaries every year just for us to keep our numbers stable at the IMB.
Wow.
Most people retire and they finish their terms of service.
Right. Sure.
So right now we've seen that candidate pipeline go up to, I think the last check I had on was 953 people had made application. We're in the process of discerning God's call and seeing how he might lead them to go overseas through the IMB. It's been very encouraging, but we need even more as we're trying to grow that mission force. If there's anybody in your church who has sensed God dealing with them, hey, go to imb.org, fill out an online application. We'll get in touch with you. You're not making any commitment when you do that. You just give us the opportunity to have a conversation with you and help you as you walk alongside your pastor and other members in your church, discern what God has for you and what he has for your future. And we're excited, again, about seeing the growth there. Also excited about the results that we're seeing around the world. COVID has created a lot of challenges, obviously, but it's also created some opportunities. Southern Baptists and their generosity have allowed us to have COVID relief projects all around the world. Just things as simple as we built hand washing stations in an African country where there's, clean water and soap is a very rare commodity. But at the hand washing stations that we're able to fund through Southern Baptist generosity, we're seeing thousands of people come and wash their hands on a daily basis. And it's given us the opportunity to talk to them about the water of life, the one who can wash away your sin, the one who can save you from COVID and any other terminal disease, because we're all terminal, right?
That's right. That's right.
And yet the one who has the Son has life. And so
That's right.
to be able to share that message, so many good things that God's doing through our missionaries, seeing people saved. I can't think of any more urgent message during global pandemic when people are dying than the gospel message.
That's
and
right.
hope that God has given us. And so I'm excited to see that good news going out.
Fantastic. Well, as we enter into this time of emphasizing Lottie Moon Christmas Offering, tell us just a little bit what Lottie Moon Christmas Offering means to the IMB, the missionaries who receive that money.
Yeah, the Lottie Moon Christmas Offering, the IMB doesn't exist without it. So we're supporting our main channels of support of the cooperative program and the Lottie Moon Christmas Offering. And Lottie Moon makes up about 60+% of our budget, and CP 30, a little over 30%. And that's most of the balance of our budget. And so again, without Lottie, we can't do what we do. All of Lottie is spent overseas. All of Lottie allows those missionaries to do their work among the nations. Again, none of it spent here. This is in light of our 175th anniversary year. The WMU actually is the one that sets our Lottie offering goal. And so in conversation with them, they set the goal for Southern Baptist this year at $175 million. So at 175th anniversary, we've got a $175 million goal. And, that seems like an incredible amount of money. But when you break that down among 47,000 churches and 14 million Southern Baptists, if each one of us does our part, we can easily meet and surpass that goal. And so again, to those who give generously through the Lottie offering, it is the life support of the IMB. And ultimately, people who are lost around the world, we hear the gospel because of that generosity and that provision, and we're grateful.
That's fantastic. Listen, Dr. Chitwood, I appreciate very much your time. I want to give you a chance to kind of give a final word before we wrap things up. And here at First Baptist Church Jackson, long history of being supportive of International Mission Board and Lottie Moon Christmas Offering. And we really believe in the work of IMB. We really believe in you, that you're God's man to serve at such a time as this. And we're excited to be able to play our part in what God desires to do around the world. And so we just want you to know, we've told all the missionaries that we've talked to thus far, we want you to know we got your back, right? I mean, we're here for you, and we're praying for you and supporting you any way we can. What word of encouragement or any words that you'd like to share with the First Baptist Jackson family before we wrap up?
Well, first I'd say we know you have our back because you've proven that. The faithful, ongoing, historical, sacrificial support of this church family and those who make up this church family it's pace setting for Southern Baptists. It's an example for others to follow. And we're grateful. And Pastor, I'd say thank you for your leadership. Not every pastor wants to introduce their members to their missionaries and to the mission work. And yet you do. You have a heart for the nations, and we praise the Lord for that. I know you've got a heart for the neighbors there and for your state and for this country, and thank God for that. But Acts 1:8 tells us to be witnesses to the very ends of the earth. We start at home and at the same time. we're to go to the nations, and Great Commission falls upon all of us as believers in every church. So I praise the Lord for the way First Baptist Church has sought to be faithful in that commission. And then I guess the last thing I would mention, just in terms of awareness and a challenge, really, because it challenges me every day. According to the research that we've done, and we've got a very strong and high integrity research department. According to research that we've done, there's 154,937 people who die lost around the world every day. 154,937 every single day who die, and there's no evidence that many of them, that they've even heard the gospel, or certainly no evidence that they believe the gospel and been saved. And so, I mean, every one of those numbers represents a man, a woman, a boy or girl who the Lord loves, and He wills that none be lost, and who Jesus has come to save. And He has sent us out to take the good news to. And so that's what drives us. That's what pushes us forward, to see that number lowered tomorrow and the day after that, because we know that number is duplicated every single day.
Yeah.
And yet, as we are a faithful witness of the good news of the gospel around the world, and people hear and people believe, then we know few will die and spend eternity separated from God in hell. And more will be around His throne, giving Him the praise that He deserves and that He's earned, worship that He's worthy of. And so might that push us forward as fellow believers, not only in this Lottie Moon season, but to continue to be a part of God's Great Commission work around the world until Christ comes for His church.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really can't thank you enough for your time. And listen, First Baptist family, I can't thank you enough for watching each and every week these stories from the field. We've been able to hear stories of how God is at work on different continents, different places all around the world. We've been able to meet these missionaries. Now we've had the opportunity to meet the president of the International Mission Board. And boy, it just gives you such incredible confidence and excitement about how God is at work, and God is putting people in positions of leadership and placing them around the world with skills and abilities and talents that He's given them over the years to be able to do what He's called them to do, so that people can hear the gospel. And as Dr. Chitwood, that vast number of lostness will go down every single day. And as we approach this Lottie Moon season, this Christmas season where we promote the Lottie Moon Christmas Offering, you've been able to see people and faces, and you've been able to hear how that money is used. And so, boy, I hope this is an encouragement to you, maybe to do more than you've ever done before as it pertains to giving to the Lottie Moon Christmas Offering, and that we'll not only reach the goal that the WMU has set, but even surpass that goal, because the work is important, and you can trust that money that's being given, that it's being used the right way, and so people can come to know the Lord. So thank you so much. As Dr. Chitwood said, thank you for your generosity in years past, and thank you for the generosity that I know that will be shown this year and in the years ahead. So thank you again for joining us tonight for Stories from the Field. We hope that you have a great week, and Merry Christmas.